Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today on Goodbye to InfoPath, Hello to NITRO Studio. We'll be talking about replacing InfoPath Forms with NITRO Studio, and we'll go into some slides and then we'll go into some demos. So we'll get started on that. I think people are still joining. Yeah, I think we'll get going. Okay, so here, welcome to our webinar on replacing InfoPath with NITRO Studio. What I want to say before we get going is that there is in your webinar screen, your webinar dashboard or whatever you call it, is a place for questions. So you can put questions in there and one of our team, James, will be answering them. If we can't get to the questions during the webinar, we'll answer by email after. And I know that InfoPath webinars like this are prone to have a lot of questions because InfoPath Replacement can be a very involved subject, and we want to, we can't cover everything in the webinar, but we do want to answer your questions and talk to you about it and discuss what you're looking for to do in your projects and what kind of situation you have with InfoPath to begin with, and then how to get from there to the next solution. So opening up a discussion with us either through the questions or through emails or phone calls is a good way to move forward and progress with the InfoPath replacement project you have to undertake. Okay, so I am Scott Restivo, President and CEO of Crow Canyon Software. We've been in business for 21 years. We are, it doesn't say here, but we are a California certified small business. We are a Microsoft partner and in the business application world. So we're very involved with the Microsoft collaboration platform, whether starting a long time ago with Outlook and public folders, but in the last 15 years, ever since SharePoint 2007 came out, we've involved with SharePoint. And of course, when Office 365 came out, we were involved with that. So we've been building our applications on top of the Microsoft collaboration platform, specifically SharePoint, Microsoft Office 365, and now Microsoft Teams for many years now. And we have a number of these applications. They're listed on our website, and we can go into detail if you are interested in one of those applications particularly. We can talk to you about it and show you a demo of it. They're in use both on-premises SharePoint and Office 365. We have NITRO Studio, which is our application creation platform. That is the foundation of our applications, as well as any kind of forms and workflow project that people undertake. And that's where, in terms of InfoPath replacement, it comes into quite a bit of use, the NITRO Studio, in order to build the forms and workflows that will replace InfoPath Forms. And not only InfoPath, also old Access Forms or any other kind of form out there that is an outdated solution, a legacy system that you want to move to a more modern, updated interfaces and forms and workflow design situation, especially with responsive design or integration with Teams or whatever. So it's not, NITRO Studio is not just for InfoPath replacement, though it serves very well for that purpose, but for other, for any kind of forms replacement that you want to do. We also build custom solutions. So it could be a custom application to meet a particular business process need. And now in the last couple of years, we've been moving into AI and bot services, and it's quite exciting. We've done several webinars this spring on bots for teams, an HR bot, an FAQ bot, a self-service bot. We're really moving strongly in that direction and finding that that is coming more and more into prominence, though it's not like widely adopted. It's something that is definitely given a lot of attention, and we're right on the leading edge with that. And we have a number of webinars that we've done and we'll continue to do, as well as we can show you one-on-one. I may get time to do that today to show some things we're doing with the Teams bots. In relation to InfoPath Forms, what it means is that we're moving from simply having forms, but more to a kind of more bot-like interface, conversational interface, where the form is secondary to the fact that you're trying to resolve the person's question or issue through live real-time interaction with the bot. And then maybe you can preempt filling out the form in the first place. So there's a lot of interest in that and where that's going. And if you have any interest in the Teams or Teams bots or Teams integration, we'll talk to you about that specifically. So we also will have an eBook. Now, getting back to InfoPath replacement specifically, we have this eBook that's been out for the last 6 months. It's a gated, meaning, you have to sign up on the website, email address, name and email, like a lot of sites to get it. But since you sign up for this webinar, you're lucky. We'll send it to you, the link to it, the actual PDF, so you can download it and not have to, put another name and address in up on our website. But our marketing team will send this to you directly. Has a lot of good information about moving from InfoPath to NITRO Studio, and I'll cover some of that lightly today before I get into the demos. Talks about best practices, how NITRO Studio can be a good replacement, how you transition over. So it's a really useful piece of information to have if you're involved in an InfoPath replacement project. Now, at this point, before I go into a little bit more, I'd like to launch a poll that asks the question, where are you at in your, here, come on, poll. Oh, I got selectable. Where are you at in your InfoPath replacement project? I believe that poll is open and being voted on. So if you have a chance to do that, please take a moment to help guide us to know. I mean, I don't want to go too in depth if you're just beginning. I don't want to go too light if you're well along. So kind of help me gauge the webinar a little there. So a few more people vote. We got up to about half the people so far. So if a few more, and then we'll end it. We don't spend a lot of time on it, but okay, 1 or 2, maybe 5 or 10 seconds here. We'll move on. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for participating in that. And here's the results. I'll show the results, share. So as you can see, most of the people are in the preliminary stages, and that's a lot of what's going on. People are feeling a little bit of the time crunch. We'll talk about it a little bit later, and they're looking for solutions. And Microsoft has not provided a solution like okay, here's InfoPath, and go here. Like you move from Windows 7 to Windows Vista or Windows 10 or something. It's not like that at all. It's like here's InfoPath, and they kind of leave you at the end of the road and say, well, where does it go from here? And so a lot of people are in that position of how do you get from here to there? So we'll help you with that. That's part of what we're here to discuss today. So moving right along from the poll, we'll go into replacing InfoPath Forms and go through some theory or ideas behind it and some slides, and then we'll get in and show you some of the tools we have for doing it, for helping you out. So first thing we want to emphasize, and you may know this already if you're joining this webinar, is that the support for InfoPath is running out. Time is ticking. The clock is ticking, and it's going to run out. Extended support ends October. Extended support for InfoPath 2010 ends October, I believe it's 13th, 2020. So it's very soon. It's basically it's over. It's over. It's over. For 2010, and that aligns with the end of support for SharePoint 2010 right here. So that's in line with the end of support for 2010, SharePoint 2010, and this is in line with the end of support for SharePoint 2013, which means they'll go into about a year from now for mainstream support. And that seems like a long time, but it really isn't. We started this 2 years ago, and people are still, you guys, like 75% are in the preliminary stages. That's not uncommon. 2 years ago was the same thing. So it's really time to get going. It's not like you snap your fingers and you go from InfoPath, what you have an InfoPath, to a new solution. It does take some time to do the transition, and the time to get going is now, really, because mainstream support will end in a year, and it's just about enough time to get off that in that time frame. So just to show you how old InfoPath is, it was created in 2003, first created back when before iPod had just come out. iPhones didn't come out to 2007. Amazon Web Services, Azure, they were in that same 3 to 4 years, 5 years after InfoPath came out. So InfoPath was like already outdated technology, and then these new cloud services, that's what I'm talking about here, cloud services, and up here are mobile devices, were just really coming into prominence quite a time after InfoPath was created. So InfoPath was not created with the cloud-based mobile first kind of mentality that it infuses all our development now. I mean, we're at 17 years later here. So then the end of development in 2013, and that's just when Office 365 was launched, and then NITRO Studio came out. And so we're obviously in the more modern technology. So you want to move from 2003 to jump up to almost 20 years into the future to get more modern technologies that we are, when we created, for instance, a solution like NITRO Studio, we're basing it on cloud, mobile, all the latest technologies and responsive designs and all that. So Microsoft ended development in 2013. 2 years ago, over 2 years ago, Microsoft made the statement, time to start thinking about migrating your InfoPath forms. It's no longer the time to start thinking about it, it's the time to start doing it. And anything we can do to help you along that path, let us know. We have a lot of advice, expertise. We've been doing this, like I said, for the last 2 years, giving talks, giving webinars, giving shows, doing development projects, whatever, to help people move. And it's still a little, there's that reluctance to jump on the train and make it happen. But whatever we can do to encourage you and give you assurance that we're here to help, we have the tools, we have the methods that can help you move from InfoPath to newer solutions. So we just talked about support ending. No new features have been added since 2013, and there's no guarantee that future enhancements won't prevent some InfoPath features from working. So you're gonna, there's a little bit of risk there. You can get InfoPath to work on SharePoint 2019 or Office 365, but as I was reading through the forums, people keep asking the same thing. Why would you want to do that? Why would you do that? And then again, you never know when Microsoft's going to bump you off the train, just by deciding to stop a certain feature that, to them, it's like, hey, using 2013, you're fine. But if you're on 2016, 2019, Office 365, we're not going to guarantee that InfoPath will keep working. There's no guarantee. And it's just the extended support means if you're using SharePoint 2013, it's going to keep working, but not if you're using Office 365. It's no guarantee on that. All right, why did it dump InfoPath? Well, because it's an old technology, like I said, not adapted to the cloud and mobile world. I talked about how, we saw how the iPhone and these Azure and Amazon Web Services came out long after the InfoPath came out, and then they just ended the development. We can't keep up. Forget it. It's not going to happen. It's a clunky old technology. It's not mobile friendly. It doesn't have responsive design. It's too much to rebuild it, retrofit it to do it. So they just said, done, and no longer being developed. And so, does it still work? Yeah, sure, of course it works. But what's happening is you're missing out on the newer technologies. So we say here, and a lot of people say the same thing, even if InfoPath was not being phased out, you would still want to move off it to take advantage of new technologies. It's not so much what you have, it's what you're missing here. You're missing like mobile, cloud, modern UI, portals, AI services, and bots, and things like that could greatly enhance your business process automation and make life easier and work easier for your users or customers or your particular staff or yourself. These are things that, these reasons people move to these modern technologies, that we don't use like old technology for a reason. There's been advances that are advantageous to businesses that adopt them. So even if InfoPath's working for you, it's kind of like having money in the bank and losing interest or something. If the money's getting lower in value, and I don't know if that's quite a good analogy, but the idea is that it's the opportunity cost of the new technology. So now that we know all that, most people at this webinar, I imagine, are looking for they realize a lot of that's outdated. We need to move. How do we do this? What are some of the ways we can make this happen? What are the costs? What's the effort involved? So let's go into that. Some of the best practices, a lot of people have ideas what the best practices on. So let's just see what, kind of middle of the road approaches here. What's the way to move to another solution smoothly and efficiently? Well, rule number one is stop creating InfoPath forms. Everybody will tell you, MVPs have a whole, I don't know if people know Mark Rackley, but one of the MVPs did a whole video on, it's just a video of different people saying, no, don't make InfoPath forms. No, don't do it. No, maybe we should send that link. We'll send that link to people because it's kind of a funny video, but it's like, no, don't do it. No, don't. Stop right now. But the point is here, stop creating InfoPath forms. Anytime you do, you're going to have that much more to migrate later. I know it's hard to stop if you're on a certain momentum with them, but really you're just making your life more difficult in the future. And that's rule number one. And there really is no rule number two. It's rule number one. Oh, well. Other ones aren't really rules like in that set, but I said rule number one, stop creating the new forms. And that's the consensus among many of the people involved in this. So once you stop creating forms, now you have to think about how you're going to migrate over to a new solution. Instead of thinking of a form A goes to form A over here, it's a time maybe to reflect a little and say, what is this form doing? Would the new technologies that are available allow us to do this in a better way? Is there some kind of a mobile or cloud-friendly aspect to it that will allow a different kind of business process to take place? So, what is the solution that the form is producing, and how do we do it in a way that is adapted to the modern technologies that could be better, more efficient, or easier for people to use, maybe more intuitive, or have more bigger, brighter buttons that kick off workflows that do, that automate the process more. So that's one thing to consider, not just go, oh, it looks like this, has to be like that. What can we do differently and better? So when you upgrade, it's not just moving the form A to B, it's like also upgrading solutions with modern technology. Talk about mobile options with responsive design, modern UI in SharePoint and Office 365, more evolved extensive database integration, portals, intranet portals, or the portals we provide as our application portals, those kind of things that will engage users, maybe allow multi-departmental interactions. These could be new ways of doing things that are just plain better. And AI services like chatbots and natural language processing, there's a whole Azure cognitive services that are now available that certainly weren't available before Azure even existed, of course, but it weren't available even 5 or more years ago, that are now available, that do natural language processing, that do some image recognition, some predictive analysis, analytics, that kind of thing, that can be incorporated into forms that were not available at any time when InfoPath was around. It's just not part of the InfoPath world at all. So we do recognize that in some cases, exact replication of the form is needed, and we geared our NITRO Studio to be able to produce forms that will replicate precisely, at least in the UI, what is necessary. And that could be because of regulatory or government compliance regulations. The form has to look that way. That's it. Forget it. It's not. You can't change it. So we have made NITRO Studio enormously flexible with tables and sections and tabs and UI elements that will allow you to create the form in a way that matches the requirements if needed. If you can modify it, but if you can't, then we have the NITRO Studio is very capable of producing a form that will be very similar to what you do. And if not, we call it the Great Forms Challenge. So if you send us a form that you think, hey, you guys, big talk there, Scott, you think you can do it? Show me. So send one over, and we'll see what it can do. Can it do that UI? And if it can't, which is kind of rare these days, then we usually can adapt in our NITRO Studio and get our very clever developers to make it happen the way it's needed. So we're right in there with you on this, rowing in the same boat, making your transition easy and possible, and working together as a team on it. The other reason exact replication might be needed, maybe the form was designed by a committee, and who wants to go back to a committee and redesign the form and have 15 people decide on where this box should go and what the labels should say. So then you just say, okay, we'll just give in and replicate it exactly. And then training costs, it could be like, well, if we modify the form and we move the box here or rename it, we got to train the 500 people who use it. So those are just some considerations that you can't always have the flexibility you might want to redo the form. But if not, we have the capability to replicate it in the way that is adheres to that requirement that it has an exact replication. Now, next question that people come up with quite often is about automatic transfer of, the bada bing approach. Oh, just push a button and it goes from InfoPath to the new solution. Bada bing, push the button, zing, there we go, new form. Now, again, if you have questions, put them in and James will try to answer as we go along. So there's 3 things that are elements of basically the form solutions, and that's forms, data, and workflows. So people say, can I just replicate the form over? Can I move the data over? Can the workflows be transferred? And we try and answer that in these next few slides. One is that the modern form technology, speaking specifically about forms and the UI of the forms, can it be automatically converted? We're talking about automatically, like you put the form in some kind of software thing and you push it and it comes out the other side looking like the UI that you put in at the beginning. It doesn't work that way. The UI that's used inside of InfoPath is this old technology that is it just can't be replicated that way very easily. And the conclusion of people who have tried it is that it's just more work overall to correct an incomplete transfer than to rebuild the forms from scratch. And the thing is, when using a tool like our NITRO Studio Forms Designer, it really is, once you get some facility with it, it's really not that hard to whip up a form that looks pretty close to what, or even exactly what was in the InfoPath. So it's more work to, is the conclusion, not only of us, but of almost every other vendor that does this, is that it's just not, it's too complex. It's too many issues, too many things that just don't work, and there is no automatic conversion tool from the forms, from the InfoPath forms to the new one. But fortunately, it's pretty easy to replicate them using a tool like a NITRO Studio. But what about data? Well, data is another story altogether. We have a partner, Fusion No Code, the guys in Denmark. Somebody, good guy, met him sometimes, and met him in Omaha and other places, buddy kind of thing. But anyway, we work with them to extract out the data from the InfoPath forms, and his tool can create a SharePoint list that has all those data types in it. So it doesn't mean the form's there, it doesn't mean the workflows are there, but hey, the data's been moved over. Now, if you do want to just start greenfield and not move the data, you can do that. But if you do want to move the data over, here's the good news, is that it can be done with these tools such as this. It's just the data, not the forms and workflows, as I just mentioned. And I do, our general feeling is it's better to start over a new solution than migrate data, but it depends. It depends on what the form is doing and what the data, what purpose and usefulness the data has. But it can accelerate a migration by fact that if you have the data fields with the data types pushed over the SharePoint list, and all of a sudden they're there, the data, you don't have to recreate, sit there in a SharePoint list and create a column and making sure the data type, create another column and all that. That can be done pretty much automatically with this, and then you can build the forms and workflows on top of the data that's been transferred. So it's something to consider. We can talk to you about it if that's something you want to do. But workflows, we're back to the same thing. Like forms, no, ain't gonna happen. It's something where they have to be rebuilt. But that's also good news in some ways, because it gives you time to reconsider different ways of doing things. We now, in our NITRO Studio, we can integrate with Microsoft Power Automate if needed, what they used to call Flow. We can integrate with SharePoint workflows. We can integrate with, of course, our own workflows. We can call web services, and we also can integrate with Teams, creating a channel in Teams, sending messages to Teams, and sending adaptive cards to Teams via the self-service bots. So there's a lot of, you may not even want to replicate the workflows exactly that are in there in InfoPath, and reconsider like wow, there's all this new stuff we can do, and why are we doing it the old way? Some people ask about database integration at this point, and I'll say that the NITRO workflows that we have can integrate with just about any database that's accessible and work as a data source. Primarily, a data source is usually the SharePoint list or some kind of entity inside of SharePoint, but it does not have to be. It could be a SQL server, it could be something called a web service on the outside, an Azure-based service or something like that. So the forms can interact with much more than just the SharePoint information if needed. All depends on what you want to do. That's why we want to have the conversations one-on-one with people, because that gives us the insights. And we're talking it's a webinar, it's a lot of people, so I can only talk very generally and not specifically. But if we get in touch, we'll talk. This is what we do all day. I mean, this is our life, this is our work, and we want to do it. We do it with our customers and our clients to make it so that there is solutions that work well and are affordable and easy to use, and make a good transition off of InfoPath. We're here to help out with this, and we have sort of a philosophy right here. Philosophy or methodology, I suppose you call it: cataloging, assessing and analyzing, considering alternatives, and then implementing a new solution. And don't worry, I want not too many more slides before I get into some demos that I think you'll find kind of interesting. So let me go through this. Cataloging, I think this is important. You want to catalog the forms and know what InfoPath forms you have in place. You build a catalog either manually. Some people just have a few, or they know, and they build this catalog. Okay, form X, Y, Z, form 1, 2, 3, this kind of form, that kind of form, and they catalog them, and they put a metadata about it into the spreadsheet or whatever form they're using, and then they can have a list of the forms, a catalog of the forms that need to be converted. But another way is you can use PowerShell, and we can help you with this. There's various, code snippets and libraries. I mean, if this makes your eyes glaze over, don't worry. That's what our programmers do here. and they can run some really a pretty simple, in programmer's mind, it's pretty simple PowerShell, other tool that will extract out what InfoPath forms you have and build a catalog of those forms. So okay, we got these 50 forms. Here's information about them, pulled out of SharePoint, and now we have a catalog. What do you do with the catalog? Well, you put it into a project management tool. Well, we have the Crow Canyon InfoPath Replacement Manager, a variation of our project manager tool. I'll show you that. That's going to come only a couple more slides, and I'll get into the project manager. I got that all geared up on the other screen to show you. So hold on. What this does, it gives you a way to put metadata about each form and treat each form as a project of conversion, a conversion project. You don't have to use our system for this, but it's turning out and proven to be very useful in that respect, especially for projects that are more than, say, 10 or 20 InfoPath forms, or if there's less than 10, if there's complexity, a lot of complex, I mean, I have 10 very complex forms, even one very complex form, that's a whole project to migrate over. So, it depends on your situation. But the InfoPath Replacement Manager is a way to guide the project. It doesn't move it, let me get this straight, it doesn't migrate it. It does not do the migration. That's the work of the staff and us and everybody else. But what it does do is give you a tool to manage the project of InfoPath Replacement specifically built for that purpose. So when you get this, when you get the catalog, you want to go through and analyze the catalog and assess and say, well, why replicate or reproduce unnecessary forms? You can know how often it's been used. You keep a record on your spreadsheet or in our project manager, and know that this form's been used only once in the last year or hasn't been used for 2 years. No need, unless there's some particular reasons, no need to replicate it. And you can eliminate a lot of work by having your catalog and determining which ones are most important, what are the criteria for migrating it over. This one critical, has a lot of work. Maybe one form's used by a very small group of people, another form's used by a lot of people, another form is not critical, another one is, one's complex, one isn't. All these factors can be part of the assessing and analyzing of the catalog. And it doesn't have to be, well, it can be, it depends on your organization and what the forms do, how deep you want to go into that analysis, but some level, even a cursory level, that will help move the project along much more expeditiously by eliminating extra work. It's like they say, a measure twice, cut once, in the carpentry world, or I'm sure there's many other similar sayings out there, is that you do want to plan before you build, the kind of thing. And this gives you an opportunity to do it by using this catalog of the InfoPath forms. Once you have that in place, another thing is to consider alternatives. Maybe you don't have to rebuild the form, because since 2003 or 2013, whenever you want to consider InfoPath's life cycle of those 10 years, maybe since that time, there's been solutions that have been developed that will serve the purpose, or pretty close to the purpose that the form did. Why replicate it? There may be an application out there already. And well, of course, lo and behold, Crow Canyon has a set of business applications. Okay, this is what we do, right? So we have these applications, and sometimes what the InfoPath was doing could be done by one of an existing applications. We, of course, promote our own here, frankly, right? But it could be by anybody else who's promoting some kind of business application on top of that environment. So we have a number of them, as you can see here, that could serve the purpose that the InfoPath form did, whether it's a service desk, help desk, it's an asset management, are you doing customer service, facilities or work orders, some kind of equipment tracking, you do an access request or leave request, or some kind of compliance request kind of things, onboarding, self-service portals, contract renewals, document management type tools, HR, leave requests, vacation requests, those kind of things, purchasing, employee requests, manager, just could be office supplies, administrative supplies. So a lot of things could be done by the alternatives of what the NITRO Studio the business applications are based on our NITRO Studio. So we call them the NITRO Studio business applications, or Crow Canyon business applications. So that's one alternative. So you might come up with the catalog and say, well, one of these could be done. We save ourselves a lot of work by just pulling the lever on one of these. Like, let's put in Crow Canyon's service desk or work order system or employee request manager, and we got this, bada bing, we're done. That's the conversion that went from InfoPath to something else. But in a lot of other cases, the business process that's being done by InfoPath is so specific that it has to be done with a building from NITRO, using NITRO Studio or some form workflow solution from scratch to build it. I believe that's the end of the slides, and then we can go into, use a pre-built application to save, using a pre-built application to save substantial time and effort. I think I just said that. And okay, now a little bit about NITRO Studio, then we get into demo. So why NITRO Studio? Okay, it's a comprehensive, powerful, easy, simple, and affordable solution. And you could test it out yourselves by talking to us, doing a demo, looking at the pricing, etc. That's what we say, but you can take a look at it and say, but like I said, we're all rowing in the same boat here, trying to get this InfoPath, from the InfoPath world to the NITRO Studio or other solution world, but preferably NITRO Studio. NITRO Studio has a lot in it. It's a full application creation suite built for SharePoint on premises and Office 365. On premises, I mean SharePoint 2013, 2016, and 2019. And they call it now Microsoft 365 or Microsoft Office 365, whatever. We look at the NITRO Studio on Office 365 as a more comprehensive than just SharePoint. SharePoint is certainly a major component of our NITRO Studio activity, but also Teams now is coming into highly into prominence as with our Teams integration aspect of it. So we call it the NITRO Studio on Office 365 is more than SharePoint. It's SharePoint and Teams. SharePoint on premises, it's pretty much focused on the SharePoint lists, portals, that kind of thing. It's a complete set of tools, forms, workflows, reporting, and many other, print manager, email synchronization, those kind of things. No code. You can put code into it if you want. So you can build some JavaScript, low code, but you don't have to create the applications. WYSIWYG form designer, many advanced features. And you have a form designer and you produce some complex forms, simple or complex according to what you want. It has many, many capabilities that you expect in a form solution: dynamic forms, responsive design, portable templates. You can link items, repeating rows, custom actions, buttons on the form that do certain things like escalate or close the ticket or reassign it or print out a document. You can have a portal interfaces, database integration, whether it's a, whatever the database is, SQL or something, electronic signatures. So there's a lot going on the Forms Designer. We build as many capabilities as possible. If there's something you see in InfoPath that you don't see in NITRO or wonder if it exists in NITRO, ask us. I mean, there's people, we don't know every last possible permutation of InfoPath that's out there. So, just let us know and we discuss it. Can it do this? We had a, conversation this morning about somebody was asking those kind of questions about SQL integration and things. So these questions come up. Not only do we have the Forms Designer, we also have the workflow and custom actions, which drive business processes forward, of course. Workflow Manager is our tool that runs on automated events with systems such as items created, items modified, a certain timer, scheduled, and then it'll run a workflow. It'll run a workflow that does a variety of actions. It could be one action or multiple actions. My item is created, do this, auto reply to the user. Let the staff know something's been entered into the system. You can even do it by what category or issue type or who the requester is or the department that's listed on it. You could set up an SLA at that time. It had response and due date or this. You might set up a set of subtasks. You might notify other people. Whatever is necessary can be done with the Workflow Manager. Read data from database, inform people on teams, many, many possibilities. And the difference between Workflow Manager and Custom Actions is that Custom Actions is a button that's user initiated by the user, pushes a button, clicks a button, either on the ribbon or on the form itself, and then it runs that action. Same idea like Workflow Manager, it's just not, it doesn't happen automatically. It happens by someone intentionally pushing hopefully intentionally anyway, pushing a button. But the button has to be clicked on the form for it to run, and you can do all kinds of different processes once you whatever the Workflow Manager custom action can launch a whole number of processes. And we should put in like another bullet point about Teams integration or self-service bots and things, whatever. So here we are. What else is included? Not only do we have the forms and workflows, we have portals, whether classic UI or modern UI portals. We have report and dashboards. So you get reporting and either historical reports or immediate real-time reports with our dashboard. AI services, talk about that, bots and AI services. We format the list, do emails back and forth, capture what's going on in Outlook and keep it part of the request management system. Different ways of looking at lists, all kinds of ways of slicing and dicing and showing lists so that you have the list become a very active way to see what's going on. You see which ones are overdue, or let's combine some lists, or let's do a search on the list, or let's have a view that's particularly for me of my tickets, what's assigned to me, or things like that can happen. We also have modern UI, responsive design running on mobile devices. And we have a print manager that can print out different templates to Word, to PDF, to Excel. And maybe you have a access request system, and then at the end of it, you want to print a certificate of access or something, or you have a purchase and you want to print out a purchase order. All that can be done with our print manager. Okay, I think that brings us to the point of the end of the slides, and I'll go into, here's the advertisement, your InfoPath replacement solution. But check it out yourself. Make sure that is something that will apply to your case. But I want to show you right now, going back to our InfoPath Replacement Project Manager. So this is the manager when we're talking about, we're just going to take a breath here and say, showed you a bunch of information, just summarize about InfoPath Replacement, hopefully demonstrating that we have thought about this comprehensively, that we've engaged with projects and have a methodology that can work or can be adapted to your particular purposes. We have solutions and tools. One of our tools is, of course, the NITRO Studio Forms and Workflows. Another one of the tools help you manage the project is this InfoPath Replacement Manager tool. So you have the catalog of the InfoPath forms, or you just enter them in manually here. You can just go to each one becomes a new project, and you just enter it in, and you're gonna say, okay, form XYZ has to be converted over. So we like a HR dependent update form. I don't know, I'm just making stuff up, right? Depend. That's spelled dependent. Again, a little too many words there. Dependent update form, right? Conversion. So that's what we're doing, So this tool, and of course, this could be imported automatically. If you had a spreadsheet, we could import it in, and you wouldn't have to, have 50 forms. You want to type this 50 times, so you could do it like with a spreadsheet. We do that with all our programs. You can import like assets if you use our asset manager, equipment if you do our equipment manager, or that data that's brought over by that no-code tool. I mean, it's like importing is possible. I'm just doing this manually just to show you. HR dependent update form, conversion. And what we're going to do here is give the form name right here. Name is form HR-456. I don't know, whatever, HR-form 56. Whatever the name. So you're gonna, and it's used by HR, and the responsible person is James because he's the HR manager or something like that. And then you could have all kinds of information. Is it active use? Yes, no. Migrate data, created in NITRO, estimated effort, could be simple, estimate effort of conversion, put some notes in. And we could, and I'll show you in a moment, we can adapt this using NITRO Studio for your particular needs of what you think should be criteria or information that needs to be collected about each form, so you can take appropriate action and move it along. So here we have the dependent conversion form. It's a budget, who's the manager of this particular conversion, maybe the one person is doing the whole conversion project, the status of it, the start date, I want to start next week and we want to end by the end of July, is it part of a larger project or the sub-project, are there attachments, all kinds of things like that come in. But also what's important here is you can also have subtasks. So if you have a conversion project, you could have analyze form, send it to HR for prototyping, then go into something where you say, incorporate user feedback or training of users or initial rollout, and whatever the form involves. It could be very simple with no subtasks, or it could be with a lot of subtasks. It really depends on what we do, and we can work with you to devise that systemology, if that's a word, system for doing that, and making it happen. So there, the project methodology, you call it. So what happens is, just add a new item, and that task is assigned to somebody else, and it's due a certain day. So you keep the project moving along. So the first step is usually once you get the form in place and you start the project, is the analysis. Who's going to do it? Who's in charge of it? When's it due? Once the analysis is done, then there's a decision, say, go forward and do conversion. So the first step might be doing a prototype, or you're doing, or maybe it's like the analysis shows that there's certain modifications you can make. So you have to go to the people and say, okay, we think that the form could be done better doing this, this, and this. Do you want to incorporate mobile? Do you want to incorporate Teams integration? Do you want to incorporate, here's some ideas on what can be done, and then there's some decisions made, and then it goes to the next step, the next step, the next step. And it could be very simple. Let me just say, it can be very simple, or it can involve numerous steps according to what the form is, the criticality of it, the complexity, who's using it. And the whole idea is to get a smooth and easy transition from InfoPath to a new solution. And this tool will help you do that. Just enter that in and save it. Let's put some start and due date on it. Let's start today. I want it done by the end of July. Here. And there we go. And we save it. And it becomes a new form here. See, then you have this like project dashboard you can work on, see where everything is, and you can do sorting of it, what type of project, what the status, open, and all that. This is our project manager tool built on a variation of our project manager tool built on top of our NITRO Studio. So underlying this, you just saw that project form, right? Come up here. This form is a NITRO Studio form. So let's go look. What I have is the NITRO Studio apps right here for the InfoPath Replacement Manager. All our applications have this, or you can get NITRO Studio Raw and start building it's called Raw. Start building it yourself. NITRO Raw. You just start from scratch and start building forms or workflows, whatever, on the list. You have a SharePoint site, of course, already, and you have some lists in that site. And now you have NITRO Studio on it. And well, you can go in there and start modifying the forms if you want. And so let's go to the project form, projects, and take a look at that. I have, and others here at the company, we could give you a whole hour or longer just on this Forms Designer because there's so many cool things you can do with it. I just think a couple of weeks ago, I know, but I think it was a couple of weeks ago, I did this webinar on NITRO Forms itself. That was, I said, look, if we're gonna do a webinar on NITRO Forms, we're gonna tell everybody it's about NITRO Forms. I'm not gonna talk about InfoPath Replacement very much. I'm not talking about, we're just gonna deep dive into this. So everybody who signs up for it is ready for the down and dirty on the Forms Designer. And we do the same with the workflow. Because people, if you came here to look at InfoPath Replacement, maybe you don't wanna know about every last detail on this. Just be assured that this is a highly capable and powerful tool for building forms. And we can build just about any kind of layout that you want with this. It's our guys have done an amazing job, and I'm really I know, it's just cool. I like playing with this, coming up with forms and doing different things with it. So here we have this, and if you want to modify this, you can go here, configure. You configure this tab. You can redo the number of columns, positions. You can put permissions on it. You can work with the UI. Again, I don't want to dive too deep into this. If anyone wants a demo of NITRO Studio itself, I would, let's do that. Call us up or send an email or whatever. Communicate telepathically. I don't, send an email, whatever is necessary to get us going with a demo to get to show you this in detail. I think anybody who's interested in forms design, has been working with InfoPath Forms, would want to say, that's worth taking a look at. Maybe these guys got something here, maybe not. I don't know, but let me take a look. No harm, right? And I don't have any problem talking about it, or other members of our team. So anyways, there's a lot you can do. You can do sections if you don't want sections. You can do tabs. You can have different themes. You can add a lot of functionality, all the forms controls from the list. You can add on here. You can arrange them in different ways. You can put like headers at the top. You can add tables to it. You can add new tabs. If you want another tab here, simply drop a tab in there if you want. And there it is. You can put a header at the, like I said, just said it, didn't I? Put a header at the top and put some label up there, if you wanted to say project form. I'm just making stuff up on the fly here, But actually, that's very lame. But you can do a lot with HTML up there and add an image in and put a whole style of styling the top of it. And you can put a table. See, I put a table in here to hold this information right here. No, this is two columns, but I could put a table in and do the same thing of any kind of size table, and then you put the columns in the different tables. Okay, I'm getting into forms design stuff here, but just want to show you a few more things. You can put an action up here, and that will run one of the custom actions you've defined on this up here, or on different places in the form. You can put an action. If you want to put it in the middle, you can adjust the button. You know, many things you can do to make the form incredibly powerful and useful. We talk about dynamic, so if certain choices are made earlier, other parts of the form show or don't show. You want to have repeating rows, you can have that. You want to pull information from Active Directory, you can do that. You want to have cross-site lookups, you can do that. You want to go contact external data sources, you can do that. You want a signature pad, you can do that. Then if you really want to get fancy and, you know, into form design, you can inject your own custom JavaScript or CSS and get into the more involved aspects of this form designer. Then I'm gonna go over here quickly to the Crow Canyon site, and woo, look at the lion. So we go over to Form Showcase here, and this Form Showcase is showing off some of the forms that we've created using NITRO. This is a NITRO Studio form done in NITRO Studio. So if you do have that government mandate or regulatory mandate or whatever to keep it exactly the same, this is a NITRO Studio form done in NITRO Studio by James, by the way. James did this, and, you know, just using different tables, different color schemes, different other aspects of it, we were able to replicate this W4 form almost exactly. I mean, pretty much exactly. It's hard for me to even to tell the difference. This is like just a proof of concept thing that we were doing to show what we can and can't do. You can have more prosaic forms, but even a basic form like this has a lot of functionality in it. You're pulling information from the Active Directory. We're having drop lists. We're having uploading of documents. We have repeating rows. I mean, there's a lot of things that could go on with this. So that's why I say send us your form, your just whatever it says there. Send us your forms, your oh, I'm trying to imitate that Statue of Liberty saying, but I can't remember it. But anyway, send us your distress forms, you're washed up on your shores or something. Send them over here, and we'll take a look and see if we can replicate. You know, this is one that's kind of exact according to some Data Protection Act or whatever the heck. So, you know, this is all in here like this, right? We do that, but also make them better and better as we go. This is just some of the many examples in our form showcase, which you can take a look at as we go along here, you know, after the webinar, and see what we can do with the NITRO Forms tool here. And so we were in the project dashboard here. So if I wanted to add more to this, I could just come in and add another field, publish it, and then that would show up. So InfoPath Form details right here. I have several things going on. Migrate data, you know, inactive use, create a NITRO. Maybe there's other fields you want to add on that, you know, criticality. Maybe criticality is it in the sense of how important this is, mission critical form or it's a lightly used form. You can easily put that on here if you needed to. You could just simply create the column if you wanted to. I'm just showing you a little about NITRO Studio criticality. I mean, you make it a choice list. It could be a lookup. It could be something else. We say light use, medium. You know, I'm just making this up on the fly. Obviously, we'd give this more thought if it was something we were doing in real time. So critical, something like that, you know, whatever. Then you can make all that up. You can pull that from another database by doing a lookup and things like that. So now you have criticality over here, but you have to put it on the form, criticality, and then you can just drag it over here and put it like on the form right here. And now you have a drop list of criticality, and maybe you want to put that into the other section up here instead of right there. Put it into the 2 columns right there. So now it's like part of the 2 column drop list. You know, so anyway, you can easily adjust it, put any fields you want on here, publish it, and you've got a new form looking. You can change labels. I mean, I'm gonna go on and on with this if you don't stop me. Let's do this. James, any questions? James, you there?
Yeah, I just had to find the mute button. No, nothing's popping in. So, you know, if it, like we're saying, if we encourage you, if you have any questions, if you have any, you know, how do you do this, how do you do that, or can it do this? You know, we're happy to field those questions. So if there's anything on your mind, any kind of, you know, any kind of thing you want to know about what NITRO can do, or how we can help you replace InfoPath, let us know. Put a question in the question box. We'll get it answered. Otherwise, we can connect with you afterwards. I mean, it's there for you to answer. It's the time.
Yeah, let me dive why people are considering, you know, all this information we're presenting. I'm into the workflows and the custom actions, and we could show some of the many capabilities of it. And I could also show, you know what, You know what? Okay. Two quick things. We got 10 minutes, and I think it'll be worth your time to see these two things that are really cool. One is the custom actions, which is similar to our workflows. I'll just go over this very briefly and show that there are a number of actions here. And I'm just going to point to this one section here called actions of what we can do with our workflows. We can add a list item. It means create a new item like a subtask or another item in another request in another system. From this request, we can update an existing request or another one, such as update the priority or reassign it or whatever. We can upload documents. We can generate documents using Word templates, Excel templates, or print templates, whatever. We can send emails, of course, that's like alerting and notifications, execute scripts, invoke web services, invoke other workflows. In Microsoft Teams, you can send a message to Teams and create a Teams channel. In our workflow manager, you can send an adaptive card to Teams. So that's one thing I want to show you, is that there's amazing capabilities in the custom actions and workflow managers inside of the NITRO Studio. There's the workflow manager and the custom actions. Another thing I can show you is the bot. Everybody likes to see a bot. So let's look at a bot. Let me find it. Here's the bot. Where's the bot? Here's a bot. There's a bot. Everywhere a bot. So here we go. Mr. Bot. Who am I logged in as? Okay, let's say hello, bot. Hello. How you doing today? I don't know. There's something about bots just make you want to start talking to it. It's weird. So hello, Mr. Bot. How are you today? So I don't think it's got to wake up. Okay, here I am. Hi, I'm here to help. You can ask me to follow. This is our self-service bot. We also have a staff support bot. We have FAQ bot. This is in Teams. I mean, I think it's obvious, right? Microsoft Teams is running a bot. Okay, I want to. This one's set up, this bot, for multiple applications, but could be just one. It wouldn't even ask that question. Select application. All this is configurable in our bot, design services. We can configure this to be exactly what you want. Here's the deal with the bot. We're talking forms. We talk forms for 20 years. Now we're into bots. Well, bots are a way of preempting, the use of forms if at all possible. Why fill out a form and have HR answer if the bot can answer it? The economic argument, I say this all the time, people are tired of hearing, economic argument of bots is huge. It's huge, because what happens is I get my answer 24/7, no vacations. The bot gets better because we use bot telemetry to learn what problems are not being answered, what questions or inquiries are not being answered, and then we are able to as the bot administrator are able to enhance the knowledge base or the data, the FAQs that the bot is referring to, so it gets even better. It's better and better able to answer the person's questions. So now you have 24/7. You have an improvement. It doesn't quit and say, oh, I got another job, I'm out of here. It keeps staying in your organization, and there's no retraining. Once it's set up, it just is a continuous improvement in the bots. There's certain bot design. I go deep. I give whole webinars on that too. But it's all about keeping it to a certain domain, a certain functionality, a certain personality. There's techniques to making the bot work, but once you get it ongoing, this is a very basic one. It really it can do a lot to help you improve business process and automation and get users answers. So the user gets answer right away, and HR staff or IT staff or whatever staff is not bothered. So you save time on both ends. The original person asking the question and the person answering it doesn't. That's two amounts of time. That could be 5, 8, 10 days. No, it could be hours apart or days apart. This way the person gets the answer right away and get back to their work. So I have a question or issue. This person has a question or issue, and I haven't used this bot in a few days. So let me see what it is. A couple of weeks. So let me see if I can say add dependent to insurance. Let's see if it gives me an answer on that one. I want to add a dependent. It's using natural language processing, by the way, in Azure Cognitive Services to do this. Okay, here it is. There's how do I add a dependent to my healthcare? So I click OK. It's giving you an answer right away. And now you open it up and you get a form. Should get a form here anyway, that the person, this is one of our NITRO portal forms. We know that it's information insurance and need to add baby boy to insurance. Yes, from the last webinar I did. So need to add baby boy to insurance. You can add it. Start date, person was born on July 14th, June 14th, Flag Day. And, oh no, that's the date of birth over here. Well, it's the same thing, date of birth and start date make the same. Dependent name is Julio Gutierrez for some reason. Well, actually, it'd be Pablo and Kumar, whatever. We're just doing something here. And then you put notes, and then, see, the point here is that it's sent, let's just make that Kumar to make it more aligned with the last name. So here we are, he's sending it in, and he's gonna save it. And it becomes into the HR system. So there we go. And the person's gonna look and say, you know, add in another baby boy here to the insurance, you know, what requests are open, which ones are closed, what's all my requests, that kind of thing. And they can edit it if they want to add another comment to it, whatever, they can do that. But meanwhile, back in the bot world, you know, he's got, he's made the request and he's done, or you can ask another question if they want, or submit, you know, whatever's necessary. That's an HR example. There's also IT support that say, how do I do my printer drivers and all that. And then the next thing that I can show you on the bots before we end this webinar is that it can instantiate a process that sends an approval or disapproval to somebody. Let me get up the other bot I had going over here. That's sending cards back. So the workflow will send the card back. And this was from, I guess, the previous demo webinar a couple weeks ago. So it sent a card back to say, you know, there's been this new entry that came in. You know, James is asking to add a baby boy to the insurance, and then somebody could add notes, you know, and et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, if you want to do a bot webinar, we can. Not a webinar, a one-on-one demo, we can. We also have some webinars. We have Hot to Trot for a bot webinar. We have the HR request webinar. I'm just brushing the surface on bots to show you that InfoPath Replacement is not only replacing it with NITRO Studio and Forms Designer, it's also incorporating new and the latest and greatest technologies into the system, so that we're not just, you know, not just blindly replicating and blindly doing the same things we did with InfoPath, but now we're moving into new technology. So hopefully what I've shown you here, and we're getting up on the top of the hour, and if there's any questions, James, pop in. Otherwise, I'll give my little spiel at the end here. Okay.
Yeah, I think we're good. There's a question about showing some items, a home, recent, and recycle bin, I think, are on the left-hand side. I think we're talking about the quick launch there. So those,
dashboard?
I think it was on the NITRO Forms.
You're talking about the teams. Oh, NITRO Studio. Here?
I think it was on a form, like it was on a NITRO form itself. I think it was like when I was opening up in a page. It was just a question about could we remove those links, and it's really just about, you know, how you want to show that.
Yeah, all that can be done. Yeah.
Yeah, so you could open up in a dialog box. I mean, beyond that, if it's something more detailed that you're looking for, we could do some kind of custom CSS on the form. Using that custom CSS, you could hide other elements of the screen, and that custom CSS piece is it's actually done through NITRO Forms itself. You can inject it onto the form. It really just depends on where you want to configure it, where you want to hide things. So it should be possible, yes.
Yeah, we have this whole branding app that will give a lot of functionality. I mean, there's a lot of things I did not cover in NITRO Studio, and I could, you know, in the sense of our portals. I didn't even go into our portals. I mean, portal design and what the classic and modern UI portals look like to give users easier interfaces to engage with the system. That's something that, I could maybe find it somewhere. Anyway, the point is that there, let's see, he was over here in the self-service bot, HR requests. Yeah, this is kind of like this is a classic version of the portal. We can do it a lot differently than this, but that's like giving users a simpler interface to engage. You got multiple forms up here. That's kind of a form. In fact, people are asking me the other day, can you just call that forms library? And it becomes a forms library where they can click the different form. The forms have been converted from InfoPath over, and then open up that form in a particular specific form that they then fill out. So there's just so many different ways we can make this work well for you to get off. You know, you're going to find it's very exciting to get off InfoPath. And I know sometimes it's a slog to get your company to make the move and you know, frankly, fund a migration project like that. but the value is huge because not only you're getting off of a technology that's going to be outdated and not supported, that is outdated, and but just going to be left in the dust, then it's no longer being supported from 7 years ago. No longer developed from 7 years ago, and is what I'm trying to say. So it's old technology. It's time to move off it. What will it take? Is the question I always ask. What does it take? What kind of um, what does your organization need to be, to start a project like this, to move from the very preliminary stage to like, okay, let's take the next step and make it happen? Because every day you're not doing this, you're missing out on these new technologies, the bots, the Teams integration, the portals, the modern UI, the mobile and responsive design. These are things that will provide real value to any organization that uses them. And the InfoPath Forms, why functional, it's like having the old car. I used to have an old car. I bought one about a year ago, but before that, it's kind of an example I used during InfoPath. And it was like, okay, it worked, but now the newer car has the backup camera, the side view camera, it has a push button start, and I'm like, wow, why was I driving that old car for so long? This is so much easier. I mean, the right side camera is great. I can see all the cars come out. You turn your head to see the route, and I just look in the camera, it shows up on the screen on the Honda Civic I have. So just one example of cool stuff you can do with new technology. That what can we do? Inspire your managers, the CIOs, the CEOs. Look, this is cool stuff that you're missing out on. You could do mobile device for asset management. You could do mobile for forms on mobiles, bots, teams. I mean, I go on and on. Even if you just stick with simple forms and skip the bots and the portals and all that, just the forms themselves are so much better in the newer platform. So anyway, whatever we can do to encourage you and help you move along, please get in touch. If you're not ready yet, then keep an eye on what we're doing. We'll be giving some more webinars this summer through the fall. We'll be looking at NITRO Studio and forms and workflows in more depth. We'll be doing some other InfoPath. James gives regular workshops on using NITRO Studio, workshops on the specifics of mechanics of using it. You're doing one on Teams integration example on July 8th, I believe. And we also do a lot on our applications. Our applications are a great use of NITRO Studio. There's the service desk and the work orders and the HR information. So, okay, well, it's up top of the hour. I'll end it there. Thank you everyone for attending. If you have any questions or you want to follow up with us.
All right, hold on a sec. We're getting a few questions coming through, so let's hang on for a bit. We can answer some, or we can follow up with the individuals afterwards.
No, let's answer them while here, because it's sometimes easier than later.
Yeah, so I had a question about, does it integrate with SharePoint on-premise? On premises, there's a InfoPath button on the ribbon to customize the form in InfoPath, but it works the same with NITRO, right?
Yeah, sure. Let me go over to the access request system here, and I'll go to the modern design. It's up here in the ribbon. NITRO Forms right there, customized info. In the modern design, if you're on premises, you wouldn't have the modern design. So this is the classic design anyway. See, that's I think what he means, right? Not only that, we also have all our other NITRO stuff up here: email manager, custom action. If you highlight an individual element and go to items, you can start to take actions like print that item and run some of those custom actions from up here. That's right. NITRO Studio has amazing, a lot of cool stuff like that you can do. So yeah, I think there it is right there. If you launch that, it will launch the form designer for this particular list, which is the access request list. And then you can design the form for it right then and there.
Yeah, another question about, does it need to have a separate software installed on a user's machine? And the answer is no, it doesn't. It works in the context of the browser within SharePoint.
That's right. It's all within SharePoint and your browser. There's no need. We got away from client installs years ago because they were such a headache. We used to do that with Outlook. The Outlook public folder, Outlook help desk, you'd have to install a client in the Outlook. And that was tough because you always had to update it and all that. No, we're way beyond that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I did. I think that was it. So yeah, if there's anyone else or any other questions, feel free to connect with us after this call. We'll be sending out I think you might have already said, Scott, we're going to be sending out the recording link and the InfoPath booklet and all that. So we'll be following up.
Okay, great. Thanks for your help, James, and thanks everyone for attending. I hope this has been useful. and hope to hear from you soon on helping you along. Any kind of questions, good. We have no problem talking to you about it. We know everybody's in preliminary stage. A lot of people, anyway, looking for solutions. So it's a time to have these kind of discussions and make sure that this is going to be the right fit for you guys. Okay, thank you very much. Have a good day. Appreciate your attending. Goodbye.